sir.
Good morning, Malacañang Press Corps. Welcome sa regular press briefing ni Presidential Spokesperson Ernesto Abella.
Good morning. Today we continue sharing snapshots of the Duterte administration's one-year accomplishments leading to the SONA. We are fortunate today to have Department of Finance Secretary Carlos Sonny Dominguez. Secretary Dominguez will highlight the Finance Department's first-year accomplishments and its efforts in pushing for the passage of the Tax Reform for Acceleration and Inclusion Act. All these undertakings aim to bring about a comfortable life for all Filipinos. Ladies and gentlemen of the Malacañang Press Corps, let's all give a warm welcome to Finance Secretary Carlos Dominguez, please.
Good morning. Thank you very much for having me here. I am happy to report to you today that the nation is fiscally secure. Recently, Moody's Investment Rating Agency has just reaffirmed our investment grade rating. As expected, the inflation rate has receded. The outstanding debt burden compared to GDP has improved. We are ready to fund the Build infrastructure program that will ensure robust growth for the economy and more inclusive growth pattern and dramatic reduction in poverty incidence by 2022. We are on track to meet all targets. We are on our way towards achieving the growth breakout our strategy aspires for. From July 2016, when we took over, to May 2017, the government collected about 2.09 trillion pesos in revenues. That is 7% higher than the same period the previous year. For this, credit should go to the administrative reforms in our main revenue agencies that substantially improved our revenue effort. At the BIR, we have expanded the large taxpayer service for closer monitoring of large businesses. At the Bureau of Customs, we have strengthened anti-smuggling capabilities, reflecting in dramatically improved collections. The broader economic strategy is bearing fruit. GDP grew by 6.68% during the first 3 quarters, faster than all other administrations. We expect to grow close to the targeted 7% throughout the year. Growth in investments is spurred by low and stable interest rates. During the first 9 months of the Duterte administration, T-bill rates averaged 2%, the lowest of all previous administrations, despite the start of rate normalization in the U.S. Reflecting this, the average inflation rates for the first 11 months of the administration stood at 2.64%. Again, this is the lowest registered of all previous administrations. The national government debt to GDP declined from 43% as of the end of June 2016 to 41.9% by the end of March 2017. The reduced debt load allows us enough flexibility to pump prime our economy. With the passage of the comprehensive tax reform program, we can guarantee a breakout growth of above 7% and sustain this into the medium term. In turn, this faster pace of growth will enable us to bring down the poverty rate from 21.6% today to 14% in 2022. We are bringing all the powers of modern information technology to make electronic governance real and ensure a sustainable fiscal position. We are continuously fighting red tape and improve our economy's competitiveness. We are also very happy that the House of Representatives passed the tax reform package last May 31 with a majority of 246 congressmen who voted for it. This represents 90% of the Filipino population. The overwhelming support from the House shows how seriously they consider tax reform because it benefits the far majority of Filipinos and everyone who wants to see the economy grow and benefit them in the coming years. This is an important milestone, signaling a strong possibility that this package may be enacted into law shortly after Congress resumes in July. The highlight of the version passed by the House is the reduction of personal income tax rates. By our computation, 83% of Filipinos will be spared payment of personal income tax. That will greatly enhance their disposable income. It will help drive the growth of the domestic market. This, together with complementary measures, is expected to create significant fiscal space amounting to about 134 billion pesos in 2018. These incremental revenues will be used only for enhancing infrastructure, housing, education, health, and social protection. Moving forward, the administration and its partners in civil society and the private sector will work hard to ensure that the Senate will pass a package consistent with the administration's proposal, especially since the President has certified this already as urgent and a priority measure. We take heart in the fact the passage of the tax reform measure was welcomed by nearly all stakeholders, businesses, international development partners, credit rating agencies, and most of all, wage earners. The package accomplishes the dual goals of increasing disposable income for our workers and increasing spending for the poor. It is a win-win package for our people. Even at this early stage in our reform effort, you can distinctly hear the tiger roar. We are on the path towards a modern, investment-led, and trade-driven economy. Thank you.
MPC questions. Pia Gutierrez, ABS-CBN. Microphone, please. Nasa likod mo, Ace. Sa baba. Thank you.
Good morning, sir. Sir, could you tell us more about the steps that the Duterte administration have implemented in combating corruption activities, specifically in the Bureau of Customs and the BIR, sir?
Yes. First of all, you have to note that the collections have gone up. That means to say that a lot of effort has gone into collection, and that collections are not going into private pockets. So we have several indicators that the BIR and the BOC have moved ahead in reducing corruption. The BIR has already, let me just take a look at my notes, has already removed quite a number of individuals who were caught, accused, and caught in doing illicit activities. In anti-smuggling, the BOC has collected from August 2016 to June 2017, they confiscated goods valued at 8.4 billion pesos, which is 7.5 times more than the 1.2 billion seized in smuggled goods registered in 2015. With the command center, they have been able to auction out 2 shipments of abandoned goods and collected additional taxes and duties and surcharges totaling almost 90 million pesos. Under Commissioner Faldon, the Bureau of Customs abolished, created, and transferred offices to promote transparency and curb corruption. I'm not saying all the corruption is finished in the Bureau, but they have definitely moved very far ahead in improving their collections.
Sir, you mentioned that the BIR has removed a number of its corrupt employees.
Yes.
How many yan, sir? And does it include top officials then or matataas na mga official from the BIR? Sir?
Well, I personally dismissed 2 regional directors who were caught who were involved in harassing individual taxpayers. So they've been moved out of their offices and are now waiting to be charged. The BIR strengthened its Run After Tax Evaders program and have filed 40 cases involving tax liabilities of 40 billion pesos. The BIR has also cleaned up its ranks by relieving or transferring personnel with unsavory records or collection performance. They have strengthened their internal affairs services, upgraded salaries, and a number of people have been dropped from their roles.
Okay, thank you, Pia.
Figures, sir, meron, sir. Kung ilan ang natanggap. May figures tayo, sir, more or less.
I don't have the exact figures, but we will provide them to you.
Okay, Daryl Placido, ABS-CBN.
Hi, sir. Good morning. Just 2 questions on my part. Sir, I understand you had a meeting with Japanese officials on infrastructure spending. May we know, sir, which projects Japan has offered, and is this loan or upfront aid po, sir?
Actually, the meeting will be starting tonight
Tonight.
and tomorrow.
Okay, sir.
Yes, and basically, we meet with our Japanese counterparts who are funding the Build program, part of the Build program, and we have met with them already in Tokyo. Now the meeting will be here in Manila. So we will just review the projects that they have offered to fund. And those projects, I don't have all the complete list. I will have them tomorrow. But the major projects that they are funding are the Manila to Clark commuter railway system that will also extend down to Los Baños or Calamba. So that will be a total of 127 kilometers. They also expressed interest in funding the subway project, which will run from the NAIA through FTI and all the way up to the North Triangle. So those are the 2 large projects that they are funding, and its status will be deliberated upon this next few days. They have also just announced that the Harvest program, which we signed with them a few months ago, is now ongoing. This is a program together with the Land Bank of the Philippines, where they help farmers, particularly in southern Philippines, in the ARM area, to improve the farming techniques. This, I believe, is $40 million.
Sir, yung ano nito, is this gonna be upfront aid or may loan din po ito?
Basically, it's these are very these are almost how would you say, they are almost aid, because the actual terms are very, very liberal. The interest rates are extremely low, so you can almost say they are, semi grants.
All right. Sir, last question on my part. Sir, on the tax reform package, some senators have expressed concern over the impact to inflation of fuel and soft drink taxes. How much of a reduction in projected revenues can we afford in package 1? And how will this affect, sir, the package 2?
The fears of inflation, I think, are overemphasized. Okay, I'll give you an example. The price of fuel between January of 2015 to January of 2016 went up by 75%. The inflation went up by 2%. So the inflationary effects are relatively mild, and besides, our inflation is really quite benign. It's been in the low. Actually, inflation last year was 1.9%. The latest inflation figure, I believe, is somewhere around 3.2 or 3.3%. So they're relatively benign. And besides, we have anticipated that. Our program includes assistance to the lowest 10 million families by providing cash transfers directly to them for a year to help them if there is any serious inflationary effects of the tax program, which we doubt very much.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, question. Dreo, to be followed by Ian. Microphone.
Sir, ulitin ko lang po yung question na hindi nasagot. Sir, kasi the original package that you have is 162 billion in revenues, and then the House package is 133.
Yes.
So how much loss can we afford sa revenue, or how low can we go? Meron po ba kayong floor nung acceptable revenue from the tax plan?
Of course, we want the 162 million as much as possible, and we will still fight for it. But we respect the legislature in their wisdom, and we think that the package of 130 is about okay.
Lower than that, sir, is it still okay? Lower than 130, is it still okay?
No.
No more? Okay. Sir,
Okay.
there's this proposal also.
I'll tell you. I just want to clarify this tax reform, okay? In the past, okay, all tax reforms were passed when we had problems, okay? When we had big deficits, they passed the tax reform. When we had big debts, they passed the tax reform. This is the first time we are passing a tax reform for the future. We need the infrastructure, and we need to build the infrastructure, and hopefully we are able to build the infrastructure before the infrastructure is needed, so that we don't get congestion. Congestion costs a lot of money. It wastes a lot of time. It makes the quality of life of people deteriorate. Okay, so we want to invest in the infrastructure program. Now, to do that, we cannot just invest by borrowing. We have to raise our own money. And this is the reason why we are doing this tax reform. I was watching TV this morning, and somebody was criticizing and saying the poor will not benefit. Of course, the poor will benefit. First of all, there is a cash transfer program element in the tax reform program. Number two, with better roads, with better bridges, with better Wi-Fi infrastructure, more investments will come in and more jobs will open up for the poor people, right? So they will benefit. It's not saying that, they don't pay tax, therefore they will not benefit. Of course they will benefit. This program is not to pay past debts. This program is not to address a crisis. This program is an investment for the future. Besides, this program is also here to make things fairer to the Filipino people. That's why the big part of the program, which nobody talks about, is the fact that if you are earning 20,000 pesos a month or less, you will pay no tax. Your first 250,000 pesos will not be taxed. Even if you're earning 500,000 pesos a year, or 700,000 or 1,000,000, your first 250,000 will not be taxed. That will help you in improving your life, okay, maybe the price of fuel will go up a bit, right? Maybe the price of cars will go up a bit, but you will have the tax break from the first 250,000 pesos, which will certainly be more than the amount you will have to pay for any price increases. And it is an investment in the future. We need better schools. We need better infrastructure. We need better health care. I think everybody agrees to that, right? And we have to pay for it. We cannot just borrow for these things. It is important that we pay for it. We are not 100% paying for it. We are still going to increase our borrowings, but still we need that capital to move forward.
Okay, Andrea, last question. Ian to be followed by Darrell and Jan.
Good morning po, Secretary. Sir, yesterday po, Moody's and FMIC.
Oh, there you are. Yeah.
Sir,
Sorry.
Moody's and FMIC yesterday tempered slightly their growth projection in Philippines this year, citing persistently slow government disbursement. Sir, doon po sa slow government disbursement, napag-usapan na po ba ito ng economic managers?
Yes.
And what seems to be the problem po, and ano po yung solution na tinitingnan po natin?
You know, the government is like a train, okay? Before the train gets up to speed, you have to go a little bit of a way first, okay? And this administration has tried to keep up the momentum of the past administration. You know, in the past administration, they stopped all the projects for the first 2 years. You remember? In 2010 to 2011. Here we did not. We approved everything. So we are continuing moving ahead. However, for the new projects, for the new large projects, okay, you have to make the new feasibility studies. You have to negotiate with the funders. So it's getting a little bit, you know, it's the momentum hasn't developed, but definitely the projects are already in place. So we did not inherit a large backlog of projects. We have to build up our own projects. So the momentum is there. We have not stopped the other projects, and we are in the process of building up the new ones. You will see the start of the first 2 projects already soon, and those will be the bridges across the Pasig. Then you will see within the next 2 or 3 months the start of the projects of improving the Clark Air Base, the Clark Airport. So that's starting up. Then we're moving up with the commuter railway. So these projects take time to get ahead. They are very large. You need project studies and all of that, but they are going to be done. The Kaliwa Dam is already in the final stages of negotiating the financing, as well as the irrigation project in Cagayan Valley. That's already coming up.
Pero sir, sa tingin niyo po, kailan po kaya magpipick up yung government spending?
Oh, it will pick up in the second half.
Second half, sir.
Yes.
Sir, next question po sana. Doon po sa meeting po tomorrow po with Japanese, with yung joint meeting po with, meron doon po ba sa list po ng infrastructures na i-discuss? May mga bago po ba doon na ipipitch?
No, we want to finish the ones that are in the pipeline already first.
Okay po.
Yeah, so that we don't get distracted.
Okay po. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Last three, Daryl, John, and Ace Romero.
Hi sir, another question lang po ulit on the tax reform. Sir, may concerns din po kasi dun sa taxes on salty foods na baka mag-impact daw po ito sa mga mahihirap. Sila daw po yung magkakaroon ng burden. So sir, how do we allay po yung
Tax on
fears?
what?
Salty foods, sir. Mga
Is there a
canned
tax
good-
on salty foods? I don't think so. It's not in the
canned
package.
good
Huh?
sugar, sir, mga ganyan. Yung mga foods po na kinukonsume ng mga mahihirap po usually. May fears po kasi yung senators sa baka sa kanila yung mapunta yung burden, sir.
Again, you're talking, walang tax on salty foods, huh?
Okay, sir.
I haven't seen any package on salty foods tax.
Okay, sir.
Sorry.
Kasi sir, nag-express
Ha?
po ng concern si Senator Escudero na
What?
on an ANC interview, sir, kahapon, sabi po niya, salty foods and sugar-sweetened drinks so po will affect...
On the sugar sweetened.
Yes, sir.
Okay. That sugar sweetened tax is a health measure. You know, too much sugar is bad for you. Diba? You know, when you drink a bottle of soft drinks, you know how many teaspoonfuls of sugar is in there? Have you checked? And that's bad for you. So, if the consumption or excessive consumption of sugar goes down, your health will be better. So it's really a health measure. You're trying to discourage the consumption of unhealthy products, just like cigarettes, alcohol. That's really the reason behind that. It's not to make people starve. It's to make it cheaper make it more expensive to consume foods that are not good for your health, so that you will change your diet to healthy foods.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, John Rosales.
Good morning, Secretary.
Yes. Good morning.
Good morning. As a former agriculture secretary, sir, tatanong ko lang, what tariff rate do you suggest the Philippines should impose on rice imports now that the QR of the Philippines has expired in the WTO?
I think what's being discussed is something like 35% or 50%, around that range.
Okay, sir. Personal po ba itong opinion ninyo? O,
I beg your pardon?
Is this your personal suggestion or is this the suggestion
No,
of
it's
the
what's being discussed in
CTRM, sir?
in the government, and really we have to protect the local farmers from dumping of foods. On the other hand, we also have to protect the consumers and hope that the prices will moderate. Do you know that the prices here are much higher in rice? Local prices of rice are much higher than they are in other ASEAN countries.
Okay, sir. When is the next CTRM meeting, by the way? Sir?
What?
When is the next meeting of the CTRM?
I'm not sure.
Ano?
I'm not really sure, but should be in the next couple of weeks.
Okay.
Last question, sir. You were very vocal on the policies of Gina Lopez during her stint as environment chief. What are your thoughts so far on Roy Cimatu as head of the DENR?
I was very vocal not on the policy. Okay, I was very vocal on the fact that it seemed that the due process was not followed. Okay, that you know, in the law or in the mining law, if there is a violation, okay, the mine has to be informed of the violation. And then the mine is given a chance to remediate the problem. Okay? And if the problem is remediated, they are allowed to go on. If the problem is not remediated, then they are closed. That is the due process. If you close a mine without giving the due process, these guys will go to court and claim that, you did something illegal. And therefore, they will ask that the mine be reopened, which the court will most likely agree to, and they may even sue the government for damages. That was what I was concerned about. I'm not concerned about the policy. I'm concerned about the process, that due process must be followed in all cases.
Okay, sir. Is on your opinion, sir, is Mr. Simatu following the due process so far on reviewing mines, sir? I believe the DNR is scheduled to release in July its decision on the mine closure order, sir.
I believe that they are going through a due process. They're going to a due process exercise to decide whether or not which mines have to be penalized, have to be given a chance to fix, or which need to be closed. That is the way it's supposed to be done.
Last question, sir. With that said, sir, the mine closure or the decision on the mine closure orders is scheduled to be released in July, according to a DNR Undersecretary, sir. The decision, of course, sabi po ng DNR Undersecretary, would include the MICC review as parallel. As co-chair of the MICC, meron po bang malilift ng mga mine closure orders?
I don't know. That is up to the MICC is mandated to review the mine operations. We are not mandated to open or close the mines. That is solely the responsibility of the DNR. The findings will be shared with them, and the DNR, of course, will be given the right to decide on what to do. It's not the MICC.
Thank you, Secretary.
Okay, thank you. Last Ace Romero, last question.
Secretary, can you just explain how the Build program can be funded, considering that the government will not rely too much anymore on the PPP?
Okay. There are several ways to fund projects, okay? PPP is one way to fund it. People have been saying that, they are questioning the decision on not starting the project with the PPP. Our experience with the PPP, when we reviewed it, is that it takes 3 years. From the time you have the idea of a PPP to the time you start the project is 3 years. That's why the last administration was only able to do 4 projects, right? Because the PPP process is very long. So we have decided that we are going to start the project, okay, using our own funds, okay? So we hope, we know that we don't have to go through the long negotiations for the PPP, okay? Now, we have a large capacity to borrow, and our interest rates that we pay is lower than the interest rate that the private sector pays. So therefore, our project cost will already have an advantage because the financing cost will be lower. Number one, it will be faster to get done. Number 3, that does not stop us from turning it over into PPP. Once the project is started, or even in the middle of the project, we can turn it over and make it PPP. We can sell the project. And we can use the funds to repay our loan. Okay? So that is one way we are planning to do it. We'll start the project, and most likely we will use private partnerships, public-private partnerships, for the O&M portion. Because the government is not good at O&M. We realize that. We don't want to hang on to those projects. We want to turn it over to the private sector after we start the project. But we want to get the projects ongoing because we need the public needs it. The public needs the better airport. We cannot wait to negotiate for 3 years and after 3 years say, okay, this is only when we start. We can't do that. We have to start now. So, of course, there are pluses and minuses to it, but if you look at the current situation, particularly in logistics, you will see that what is needed now, not 3 years from now. And that is a decision we have made, and I think that is the decision that will benefit the public.
Secretary, considering nabanggit nyo, yung revenues very crucial yun for infrastructure, diba? Pero yung senators natin, mukhang maraming reservations about the tax reform package that we are offering. But since nasabi nyo, you will fight for the original proposal, how do you intend to convince these senators to adopt your original proposal?
By showing them the facts and figures, because the senators are very reasonable men, okay? They have the good of the country at heart. We have to explain to them and show them in detail what the program really means. And I believe that they will be enlightened, and as good Filipinos, they will vote for this tax reform. Of course, in everything you do to change, there's always fear. There's always fear of change, what might happen, what might not happen. But, you know, if you stay where you are now without improving your revenues, you might not be able to get the infrastructure program done right.
So you're still upbeat na they will...
Of course, because all the senators are reasonable and intelligent people. When they see the real facts and figures, they will, I think, be firmly convinced that it's moving forward. You know, I'm telling you, this program has gotten support from everybody. The businessmen, the economists, the foreign funding agencies, the rating agencies, even the school teachers have supported it.
Okay, thank
Thank
you,
you po.
Ace. Last question, Ian.
Hi, sir. Follow-up lang po dun sa sinabi niya po na you expect government spending to pick up on the second quarter of 2017. Sir, ano po yung mga drivers doon sa pag-pick up po?
Well, to start with, the projects in Clark will start picking up. The Clark Airport project will start picking up. The railway projects will start moving, and there will be a lot more construction in place.
Thank you po, Secretary.
Okay?
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Finance Secretary Carlos Sani Dominguez,
Thank you.
Presidential Spokesperson Ernesto Abella.
Thank you for clear and precise explanations. We'd like to begin with the Joint Task Force Marawi updates as of 6 p.m. on the 5th of July 2017. Most of the facts and figures remain the same, except for terrorists killed. We have by this morning, 351 or plus 8 from 343, and recovered high-powered firearms from terrorists, 425 or plus 5 from 420. All other figures remain the same. We'd like to address the claims of Aga Khan Sharif. Up to this point, we have no verified reports that there were efforts to initiate such actions as Aga Khan Sharif claims. Let me be clear that the position of the palace and the president is not to negotiate with terrorists, including these local terrorist groups which had intended to establish a state within the Philippine state and to remove allegiance to the government of the Philippines and the chief executive of the city of Marawi and its residents, because it constitutes rebellion, because they submit to a foreign leader and hold to a dangerous ideology that is inimical to the well-being of all Filipinos, including Muslim Filipinos, and because most Muslim Filipinos disagree with the extreme interpretation and application of the Muslim belief system. Having said that, the President is serious about redressing the social injustice committed against Muslim Mindanao. He is committed to having the Bangsamoro Basic Law passed. The President intends this to be a template for his vision of a federal form of government in the Philippines. We also thank the MILF for the issuance of a fatwa against extremism and radicalism happening now in Marawi. Again, we sum up, the President is committed to what is just, fair, and equitable, and he stands against what is criminal, corrupt, and dangerous to the people and to the next generation. Regarding the resurgence of drugs and involvement of SAF in the drug trade at the National Penitentiary, Philippine National Police Chief Ronald De La Rosa has already talked to the President on the deployment of Marines to replace the SAF personnel in the Bilibid, which was put on hold and it was overtaken by events because of the Marawi Rebellion. Again, we'd just like to say that the discovery and neutralization of drug syndicates operating in the National Penitentiary is one of the highlight accomplishments of the government's war against illegal drugs, and the reported resumption of the drug trade and involvement of SAF in the Bilibid prison underscore the enormity of the drug problem and the need to destroy the entire drug apparatus to fully succeed in our campaign. As the President has stated, we will be relentless. Investigation is now underway to probe drug-related activities and collusions, if any, of authorities. We're open to a few questions.
Questions? Maricel Halili, TV5.
Sir, just to follow up on Reuters report. Sir, what do you think is the motive of Imam bin Laden for stating that the president was preparing a deal with Maute and later on aborted it? What do you
We don't
think
have
is-
any opinions on his intentions or what he intended to do. What we do stand on is that as far as verifiable reports, there are none that we can state.
Okay. I understand, sir, that you're not open for any negotiation, but at least on back channel talks to make sure that the civilians will be saved. Will you consider that, sir?
This is up to the assessments of the armed forces.
Thank you, sir.
Joseph Morong, GMA
Hi, sir. How are you?
Yes,
Morning.
great.
Just on the staff, you said that General De La Rosa has already talked to the President. May pinayagan ba na i-transfer sila at tanggalin sa Bilibid?
Ang alin, yung...
Paglilipat po. Alisin na sila sa
Well,
Bilibid,
that
sir.
depends on his, that is his call.
Wala pa so far decision, sir.
That is his call, I said.
Whose call? De La Rosa?
De La Rosa's call.
Okay. Sir, just on the Supreme Court ruling, just 2 points that I want to highlight. The ponencia said that probable cause is enough standard for the president to decide whether he needs martial law, number one. Number two, it is impossible to limit the scope of martial law declaration to just one place. These two things, sir, when we come to July 22, when the martial law expires and the president needs to think whether he will extend or not, how will these 2 points by the ponencia factor in the decision of the president?
As far as the extension of martial law, the President has said in numerous occasions, it would first and foremost depend on the assessment and recommendation of the armed forces of the Philippines and the PNP and other stakeholders. So in other words, it will have to be a whole government approach, a whole system approach, and that would demand his assessment would not be based on 1 or 2 facts. It would be based on the recommendation of these stakeholders.
So we're not really closing our doors yet to another re-declaration or a new declaration or an extension.
As far as we know, we cannot make any opinions prior to the time.
Okay, Pia Gutierrez.
Hi, sir. Good morning.
Yes, ma'am.
Sir, Teneo's Bob Herrera Lim.
Come again?
Bob Herrera Lim of Teneo recently released a report warning that the president may be planning to extend martial rule in Mindanao under the guise of a worsening drug problem that needs to be resolved like a war on terror. How is the palace responding to these fears, sir?
I just did. I just said the extension will be dependent on the recommendation of the AFP, PNP, and other vital stakeholders.
But recently, sir, President Duterte has been raising concerns dun sa relations ng terror groups and the drug problem. And ito pong report na to is a warning that the President may use the drug problem to extend martial rule in Mindanao. So,
as far as we can see, they're trying to argue piecemeal by thinking silo, terrorists, then this. It needs a whole system approach, and besides, a whole of system approach. In other words, it's related not just to a terrorist, local terrorist group, but actually the rebellion factor, and which is what the Constitution states. Martial law can be extended only based on rebellion and/or invasion.
Okay, last three. Tina Mendez, Philippine Star.
Sir, follow-up lang sa martial law muna. Sir, kahapon sinabi ni Attorney Panelo na it might need, the President might declare it might need a new proclamation rather than extend yung proclamation. Ano po bang...
Well, we defer to his opinion, but that is his opinion. Thank you.
The process is, will the President call on the Congress for an extension?
The President will follow due process.
Sir, on another note, are there plans for the President to call for a JLAC to issue,
So
to
far as we
fresh
know,
out issues?
so far as we know, none.
Okay, sir.
Okay, thank you. Rosalie Cos.
Hi, sir. Good afternoon. Sir,
Yes, ma'am.
tanong lang po namin yung stand po ng Palace. Dahil po recently pinadala sa Marawi yung pong mga abusive cops at may mga officials po ng Marawi na they feel offended dahil po insensitive daw po itong move na ito na ipadala ang mga abusive cops dun po sa Marawi City.
Well, we defer to the PNP chief decision and opinion. However, I'm sure that it's not meant to cast aspersions upon any ethnic group or any place. It's just a strategic move.
Pero sir, guidance po ba ng Pangulo na ipadala pa rin po yung mga abusive cops sa mga ganong klase ng sitwasyon, sir?
Well, he's just following, he's acting based on policy. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Last two, Benji Liwanag, and then last, Joseph Morong.
Good morning, sir.
Yes, sir.
Have you coordinated with the Office of the Presidential Advisor in the peace process on Bin Laden? I think Bin Laden coordinated with the OPAP for OPAP coordinated with some of the Muslim leaders, including Imam Bin Laden, for the humanitarian ceasefire in Marawi.
So your question is, did he coordinate?
Yeah, did they coordinate, and did the palace?
We do
know
not
the
have
coordination?
we do not have any official report regarding that coordination.
Okay, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Joseph Morong, last question.
Sorry, sir. Medyo just to belabor the point. You said kanina dun, regarding the claim of the Muslim cleric that there were back-channel talks, but the president apparently backed out.
Yes.
You said that there was no verifiable information.
Yes.
Referring to, did you ask what, OPAP or the TND, or did you even ask? Can I just be direct
Well,
about it?
we do talk to our sources, and like I said, there is nothing verifiable.
Did you
official.
talk to the president also, if it's true?
He's not my source. He's my principal. Thank you.
So therefore, sir, we wouldn't know from the president's side na there were no, in fact, negotiations.
That's speculation. Thank you very much. Next question.
Okay, thank you, Malacañang Press Corps. Thank you, Presidential
Thank
Spokesperson Ernesto Abella and Finance Secretary Carlos Sonny Dominguez. Back to our main studio sa Radyo Pilipinas and PTV.